I'm Allison Jonjak, the Cranberry Outreach Specialist with the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension. These videos are the on-demand recordings of UW Extension and the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association's virtual brown bag lunch series. These monthly sessions offer growers and researchers a way to share timely and relevant information. We hope you'll enjoy and continue to engage with us.
Hi, I'm Tom Lochner, the Executive Director of the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association. We're excited to be a partner with Extension to bring you research-backed resources, tools, and tips to keep Wisconsin marshes productive and profitable.
So as we round into the noon hour, May 21st, 2021, we're ready to gather for our first growing season brown bag of the year. We've got a few pretty cool topics we're going to be able to discuss. Liz Miles with DATCAP is going to be able to discuss honeybee import requirements with us. We're going to talk about insect control methods and spray timings with Shawn and Christelle. Suzanne of Red Forest IPM is going to join us with our crop consultant observations. We're going to have our question session at the end of those two presenters. And then Stephen Bartling is going to give us a quick WSCGA update. For a couple of housekeeping things, if you have questions, either feel free to unmute yourself or type the questions into the chat. But with that, I think those are the basic housekeeping. Tom, if you'd like to say a good morning from the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association, and then we can move into our presentations.
Sure, I'll say good afternoon. My clock shows 12:01, but good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first brown bag of the growing season. We learned last year that through the course of the pandemic that we can conduct in virtual sessions and disseminate information quickly to growers in a short amount of time. Obviously, a lot of information, and it eliminates travel as well. And the response we've got from the grower community has been very positive, and we've been encouraged to continue these things. So we will. Thanks to all the participants, and especially to Allison and Alex for setting this up for us, and of course all of you for participating. Just one quick note, an update that we were talking about a little bit before people came online, is the research station is up and operating. We approved 10 projects to be conducted at the station this summer, and in addition, we're always open for more as they become available, as well as the normal work that goes on monitoring the crop out there. The building itself is nearing completion. We plan to be into the building first part of June, and we will be starting to utilize that facility for meetings and mini clinics and other activities. Also, the next step in the program, and hopefully we'll get it underway this summer, is the reconstruction or replacement of the water control structure on the creek with a new state-of-the-art modern facility that we can continue hopefully to utilize for another 80 or 90 years. That's about the life of the one that we've got on there now. So a lot of things going on. If folks do want to get over and take a look at it, we welcome growers and people to come in. We ask that you give us a call ahead of time and talk to Wade to let him know that you're going to be stopping by. So we just don't want people wandering out on the marsh, because obviously I think most growers feel the same way that we do, that you want to know who's on there so you can make sure that they don't get into a situation where it's a safety issue, or they may interrupt some type of a trial. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Allison, and thanks everybody for being here, and looking forward to hearing about honeybees and the other things on the agenda.
Thank you, Tom. I'm working through the AV difficulties of transitioning to a new office. Welcome to my Wood County office. You know, there are hiccups, but we'll get through them, and we're happier for them. So next up, I will have, thank you, Liz, for all of that information. Kind of cool that the document that you shared from Extension, Christelle is, of course, is one of our next speakers, and she was the main author of that. So have additional resources always here within Extension. So Christelle and Shawn, if you guys would like to unmute yourselves and share your screen, I will stop sharing mine. We're going to talk about insect control methods and spray timings.
Hi, everybody. I guess, Shawn, you can start, but I would say just make one quick comment. Of course, if you have questions about anything has to do with pollination, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to answer questions that, Liz and I can answer together. That's totally fine. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware we had a pest alert that we detected probably the first blunt-nosed leafhoppers. So there was a pest alert that came out. So please go back to that. It's kind of condensed information on thresholds and insecticides. So please feel free to go back to that and ask me any questions if you have any. But Shawn, I'll let you start and then I'll add about the trials that we're doing this summer.
Okay. Yeah, and Shawn came in and his AV was working when we did our earlier check-in.
Well, I guess maybe I'll get started and just tell you about the trial that, it would be better to have Shawn introduce the previous results and what we're planning to do this summer. But in a nutshell, as you all know, Shawn Steffan and his lab have been developing degree day models for both Sparganothsis and Cranberry fruitworm. And that's what he was going to show you. But those degree days help really with the benchmark is that they put together for Sparganothsis in knowing when oviposition happened, egg hatch, and the flight, and all those different phenological events for the species. And so we have that pretty well set for Sparganothsis. And this have some information on that for Cranberry fruitworm. And so what Shawn has presented to you in the past and was going to show you now is what kind of timing would we use to apply our pesticide applications, right? We have this information that's really telling us when those different life stages are occurring, when the egg laying period is occurring, but what is the best timing during that period of egg laying is going to be optimal for us. So the idea is really to do those trials to get you the information of where's the best window. Now that we know when the egg hatch period occurs, and that's what Shawn will show you, what is the best window of time with those degree days that you guys could use to spray and target those insects at the most vulnerable window. So what we did back in 2019, Jack Perry conducted a trial that Shawn was going to show you, and maybe I can show you just a graph that I have. Okay, so the graph that's here is what Shawn was going to show you. I have more information here that you don't need to read. But this is showing you for Sparganothsis, the insect damage, the number of berries that are damaged by Sparganothsis, and the spray timing here. And so this would be what we did at 10% egg hatch, 25% egg hatch for Sparganothsis fruitworm, 40% egg hatch, or the control. And these were done, this was done on large plots. So this was done on plots that were about, I wrote it down somewhere here, 100 feet by 150 feet. And so this is 1 year of data for Sparganothsis. And what it shows you on these very large plots is that the 10% egg hatch and the 25% egg hatch significantly reduce the number of damaged berries. And that can be translated in what window of time that is in degree days, which you can then calculate yourself and get the information out on when it is, what day on your marsh that would be occurring. So 10% egg hatch at this about 1000 degree days and 25% egg hatch were similar in having very good efficacy in decreasing the number of damaged berries per sparg. 40% was too late. As you can see, it was not different from the control here. So this is what we did in 2019. We only have 1 year of data. So this 2020, of course, we couldn't do anything because of COVID. And then this year, Allison is going to pick that up. And that's one of the projects that was approved to be done at the research station. So Allison, in conjunction with Shawn, myself, and Wade will be helping, as well as Brendan, who's working in Shawn's lab. Shawn, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay.
So let me finish my kind of train of thought and then you can take over, but sorry. So the idea is that we're going to repeat this to really be strong and give you that window period of time, which we're thinking from this data from 2019 is going to be that 10 to 25% egg hatch is going to be the best period for you to time your AltaCore application. But we have to repeat that this year. That's what Allison and Brandon are going to do, with Shawn and I helping with that. And then there's also going to be similar kind of work done with cranberry fruitworm because the timing is very close. So we're going to do both of those. And again, on those large plots at the research station, sampling for damaged berries. So that will give us an indication of when once we have those degree days, we can tell you 10 to 25%, let's say, egg hatch. We'll tell you what degree days that is, and you are recording those degree days on your marsh, and you'll know exactly when that occurs. And it will give you a window that will help you really target those most susceptible stages. So with that, I'll leave it to you, Shawn, to give kind of the background a little bit more on this.
Okay, thank you so much. And I apologize for whatever happened. So yeah, I'll move through this quickly. Yeah, this has been a long-term process. Back in 2017, we had 9 years of data based on trapping in Wisconsin for Sparganothsis. And so we created this phenology curve. It's like a bell curve of the flight, but that also corresponds to the bell curve of egg laying and then hatching eggs. So what I want you guys to focus on is this S-shaped curve here. And this is the percent of any given generation or cohort that has emerged. So here's the 0 point, and then here's the 100%. This spot in the middle is the 50% that corresponds to the peak, okay? So if you think about this 25, 50, and 70% emergence, so at this point, at this number of degree days, this is when we expect to have 25% of the eggs for that generation hatched. This is the halfway point, and this is the 75%. So when you have those percents in your mind, just keep in mind that it's sort of positions on the way to the annual emergence of that stage. And we focus on the egg hatch because we're often trying to kill caterpillars. So if you put a spray on at 25%, you're likely to kill everything that has already hatched. So this blackened out part is what has already hatched. And then the residue on the leaves will continue to kill. So you're likely to get up to, say, 35, maybe 40% of that generation killed with that 25% spray. So I just want you to have that in mind, like when we do a 25%, what it really signifies in terms of kill. Okay, and I think Christelle was hinting at this, or maybe when I was running downstairs to get my headphones, maybe this was covered. But so here's what we have happen every year. You've got overwintering. Sparganothsis larvae come through winter. They feed. The earliest guys start to pupate. So this is what the pupal curve looks like. And then you've got the adults starting to come out. So the adult flight is this. The broken blue line represents egg hatch. I mean, not egg hatch, eggs being laid. And then finally, we have the larval emergence. So at this point, you've got the first little chewers hatching from their eggs and coming out to chew on leaves and eventually fruit. And the reason we think that 25% should be good is that at this point, this is about 25% of that entire egg hatch period. That corresponds to a point with the adult flight where you have the vast majority of the moths out. So the spray that you put on to kill caterpillars is also likely killing the egg layers. So you effectively preempt the existence of the eggs because you've killed the adult that was trying to lay the eggs. And that's why 25% should be pretty good. From 2018, when we did this trial first, we had a 25% timing, 25% egg hatch, a 75% egg hatch, and then both. And what we found was that 25% was really good, much better than 75, so much so that when you had them both together, the 25 really couldn't, or I should say the 25 plus 75 couldn't improve at all upon just 25 alone. At this other marsh, we just didn't have many mods to work with, so it wasn't really useful data, but it told us that timing for sparg really, really does matter. We repeated it in 2019, as Christelle was talking about. And in that year, I won't recapitulate what she already talked about, but basically the 10% timing and the 25% timing were both much better than any other timing. And that suggested that those are kind of like bookends for this spray window. If you really want to hit sparg hard, a spray between 10 and 25% is likely the best timing. It corresponds to about 1,000 degree days for the 10% benchmark. 25% benchmark is about 1140. And so this year, Allison and Christelle and I and Brandon are going to be repeating this trial just to see if we get the same result. And I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Shawn. I think it would have been better the other way around because of course you provide the background, but this is great. And I hope that people understand that really the goal of this is to give you the best window of time when you can spray using your degree days. And so one thing I wanted to share, so this here, I'll show you what it is. It's the Ryman label, right? We all know Ryman, we've used it, maybe not, but everybody's familiar with it, and that's an insect growth regulator. And what's very important for a lot of those insecticides is that the timing is essential, right? For any insecticides, if you're targeting the larvae or the eggs, timing is essential. But one of those that I wanted to show you for pome fruit in this case, so let me go back down to it, is that labels, when it's really well developed, those models will have for calding moth in apple, the first generation, this is when you would be spraying your insecticide. So it gives you the degree days, 50 to 100 in this case. Degree day, the middle 50 here is the base 50, that's the minimum threshold. And that's what it gives you. It gives you the exact timing, and that's what we want to provide you with. That's what from Shawn's work and what we can do with our trials is provide you with that window of time that could end up even in a label potentially. I mean, I'm not saying that's our goal to put it in the label, but if you have that information, that can be very, very crucial in having the perfect timing for your pesticide application. This will also open the window for us to help you with diversifying your portfolio at this time, because right now most people apply Altacor, and it's been brought up. People have been worried about resistance potentially happening at some point down the line. There's a lot that can happen, and we know we need to rotate our pesticide applications. By refining this timing, we might be able to give you more pesticide products that are available for you to use. I'm thinking, for example, about Dipel, BT, or Venerate. Those are reduced risk insecticides that in Jack Perry's trials work really well. They work as well as Altacor, and some are even good for organic growers, but the timing is essential. And so that's one thing that we want to do down the line. We're going to do these trials again this summer with Altacor, but we might be able to give you those timings for other pesticides at some point in time. So I just wanted to give you kind of that information because it's also going to help us in diversifying our portfolio at this very essential time around bloom using those reduced risk pesticides. So that's what I wanted to say. I think we can take questions now.
I think we had a couple of questions in the chat. Someone had asked, when do we start keeping track of GDD for this? The answer is March 1. And I would expect that we will kind of keep in communication as we come in and approach these times in the various growing regions of the state so that people are aware of that, but it's also good to calculate on your own marsh as well. Also had a question, does that 10 to 25% timing correlate with 10 to 14 days after peak flight? I know the answer is it depends, and that's why we use GDD, but if either Christelle or Shawn wants to answer that in the more eloquent way, be my guest.
I already answered it in the chat, but Christelle, feel free.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see. I was expecting that was your answer, right?
Yeah, It's so dependent on weather, and as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, it varies so much. It's really hard to say. So the short answer is I don't know, and it depends on weather.
Yeah, so the reason we're using GDDs is what matters to the insect is how much heat it has accumulated, how much sunlight it has accumulated, rather than the calendar day. I have one more question. Is temperature measured at vine level for determining degree days? Or is that like your normal airport weather station temperature?
So we've used both, but the best is on marsh. If you've got your own weather station in a bed or two, that is by far the best. But without that, airport, like local weather stations are pretty good. I mean, it's all about estimation. And so it's sort of giving us a less arbitrary and greater precision in the estimate. But even if it's off by a few degrees, it doesn't really matter that much in terms of degree day accumulation. Small differences don't have a huge effect. Yeah.
So if I have a thermometer, do I want to place it at vine level or at knee height or at waist height?
Okay. So that thermometer cannot be in direct sun. So wherever it needs to have that proper sheltering shell. And if you can put that in the vines, in the canopy of the bed, that's great. It's okay if you don't. So we would often set up weather stations, sort of like this mobile unit that is up on the dike and sort of like 20 feet away. The difference is it tends to be like in springtime, the cool air will settle in the bed. And so you can have like a big difference, like big as in maybe like 2 or 3 degrees different, like for the nighttime low. The daytime highs will not be different between the bed and outside of the bed. But it's really just about that nighttime low. But those differences, they may seem like a lot in the springtime.
No, it was
okay.
very
Well, basically in spring, that's when we tend to see differences between like a bed measurement versus the shady side of the barn. But those differences, it might look big to us, like in the moment, but it gets totally just washed away by the time you hit June, because like in spring, you might have, say, 5 degree days at one place, and then one place is a little bit cooler, you get, say, 2. And you're like, wow, we got so much more. Well, it was only 3 degree days different. And by the time you hit June, you're both getting like 25 to 30 degree days a day. And so proportionally, those differences we see in spring just dissolve and are become just trivial by the time you hit summertime. I hope that's making sense. But basically what I'm saying is like, it's all an estimation process, and the differences we see in spring, like canopy height versus the shady side of the barn, those things get sort of washed away and trivial by the time you hit summer.
Yeah, and that's why having a window, like we never talk about a number. It's never going to be 1,523 degree days. It's never like that. It's always some kind of a window. You saw it on the Ryman label, because it's, we're talking about biological organisms, right? So obviously it has a window of time, and that's why we're trying to really go with that kind of bracket here in timing, so that if you miss it by a couple days or a couple degree days, depending on how warm it is, it's going to be fine. I mean, you're not going to be, if you end up for some reason because of the weather going at 30% egg hatch, it's not going to be that huge. But we're trying to give you the best window and have you do the best with that. But I agree with what Shawn was saying, for sure. It won't make a huge difference where you take that temperature.
Thank you. That's a great point. That's really a great point. Oh, why March 1st? It's because January and February in Wisconsin, it's so cold that it's pointless. It's kind of trivial to keep track of temperatures.
This relates to what we call the biofix, and the biofix can be a calendar date. It can be an event. For codling moth, for example, is the first 5 moths that you catch. That's called the sustained flight. And so you have to come up with something. If you're not going with something that's necessarily biological to the species, it will be a calendar date, because you're not missing anything if you're starting March 1. You could start December 1, you would be at the same level by the time you reach March 1. You didn't accumulate anything before March 1.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christelle and Shawn, for rolling with us with our AD stuff, but for answering all these exciting questions and helping us get our insect applications out at the time that we're going to get the most bang for our buck and the most control of the pests that we'd rather not have there. So any other questions, feel free to reach out, and otherwise, thank you for joining us today. I will advance my slide one here and let you know that our next virtual brown bag is going to be June 18th. It's 2 days after the Gulf outing, and that will focus on fruit rot and how to protect yourself, and fertilizer nutrient update. And then Pam will be our consultant on deck. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Allison.
Allison, thanks everyone.
Thank you.